supposed to be on a plane in 8 hours, and I am procrastinating packing. And instead, I want to talk about the shows I saw while I was here in New York instead, because I think that is a better use of my time. So the first show I saw was A Wonderful World, the Louis Armstrong musical. I had a friend who saw this show in its out-of-town tryout in Chicago and loved it. And she saw it again when it was on Broadway. She saw it a couple weeks ago here on Broadway. Did not care for the changes that had been made. And then I had also heard from a coworker that wasn't a fan. So I had those two opinions going in. And unfortunately, I agree with them. I think that Louis Armstrong lived such an interesting and tailed life. And there is so much there. And because of that, there's so much squeezed into this story that it kind of gets rushed through. And, as somebody who isn't really that familiar with his life, you kind of, it feels like we're just kind of jumping through. And I'm saying this as somebody who isn't a huge fan of biographical jukebox musicals to begin with. So that also lowered my expectation for it. But I'll say this. James Monroe Iglehart is giving the performance of a lifetime. He is up on that stage doing everyone on that stage is doing such a phenomenal job. The performances, the musicians are also just it sounds so well. The dancing is so well. The costumes are beautiful. It's just, the book is not as coherent as it could be. Also, that show, so I didn't know that Broadway had essentially moved to a 7 p.m. curtain during the week. Was unaware of that. I haven't been to New York in a year and just didn't know, just was unaware. And so I finally get into the city and I look to see what show I could possibly make. And that is the only one I could have made on Thursday night. And when I say that I bought that ticket, the show was at 7:30. I bought that ticket at 7:29. So that's where we're at. So Friday, I spent most of the day working, but that night I went to go see Maybe Happy Ending. So I finally made it out of the hotel after working for 4 hours, grabbed dinner. As I was eating my sandwich, found out that Roki Sasaki is officially a Los Angeles Dodger, which, the best news, I feel like we all knew, but wasn't sure. And now I'm gonna go see a musical. And what musical am I seeing? Maybe Happy Ending. I'm very excited. It's a good day. Good day. All around. I am a huge Michael Arden fan. Ever since I saw Deaf West's Spring Awakening at the Wallace in Beverly Hills in June of 2015, before they announced their move to Broadway. And since then, I have seen his production of, the next year he directed at the Wallace in Beverly Hills, Merrily We Roll Along, which changed my life. Loved that production. And, since then I've seen Once on This Island, Parade. He did Annie at the Hollywood Bowl. He did A Christmas Carol at the Geffen, and I think it also ended up coming to Broadway as well. So he's become my favorite director. So I knew I had to see this. Also, it's a completely original show starring Darren Criss and Helen J. Shen, who I have seen Darren Criss in things before. I saw him in Hedwig and the Angry Inch. And then I had also seen Helen Shen in The Lonely Few at the Geffen in LA. So I was very excited to see these two together. This show is phenomenal. This might be my favorite thing I've seen on this trip. It is beautiful. It is completely original. I genuinely think something in me broke watching this, because I spent the entirety of Friday night going, all Oliver wanted was to see James. All he wanted was, like, he spent his nights collecting bottles so that he could save up enough money to go see James. And robots aren't supposed to have money, and they're not supposed to be able to experience love, but clearly he loves James enough that he wants to go see him. The fact that it deals with, like, several different types of love, because you have that, like, familial love, but then you also have, like, a romantic kind of love happening too. It's such a beautiful, beautiful show. Ugh, everyone needs to see the show. It's so good. So good. Also, the character, Gil Brentley, played by Des Duran, Des has the most beautiful singing voice I think I have ever heard in my life. It is stunning. Stunning. Okay, then I saw the Saturday matinee of Death Becomes Her. Okay, it's like 1 p.m. I finally left the hotel again. I swear, I screwed up my entire sleep schedule, but I grabbed coffee, and now I'm going to go see Death Becomes Her. Very excited. I love a good musical. And I have been very, like, turned off by current musicals. And so I, like, almost saw none last season. So this season actually intrigues me. And so I'm very, very excited to see this one. Although I got an email this morning saying Megan Hilty was out of the show today, or at least at my performance, which is fine. Love a good understudy show. So let's go see that. I have never seen this movie, but I had a friend who saw it I had a couple friends who saw it in Chicago and loved it in Chicago. This show is so fun. It is kooky and zany and, like, lavish. And I feel like I haven't seen, like, a lavish kind of show like this in a minute. And it doesn't, I was explaining this to somebody that I was sitting next to at the show I was at tonight. I go, it doesn't feel like a cash grab. It doesn't feel like a general, let's just turn this movie into a musical cash grab. It feels like well thought out comedy, like a good musical comedy. And that's all I want from musical theater these days. Like, that's what I've been missing, is clever musical comedy. The music in it feels like good. The music is good in it also. I also had an understudy on for the character of Madeline, so I didn't get to see Megan Hilty, which is fine because the actress Kaylee Cronin, so good. She was having a blast. Like, you could tell she was so into it. And then Jen Samard, obviously amazing. Chris Sieber, amazing. Josh Lyman, amazing. Michelle Williams, her voice, oh, so perfect. Oh, it was such a fun show. Like, it's one of those shows that, like, I think it would appease tourists and the, like, typical theater going crowd alike. It's just fun. And then the first show I bought for this trip, Gypsy, I had to see this. I had to see Audra McDonald in Gypsy. For many reasons. One, I love Audra. Love Danny Burstein. Love Sondheim. And love a good old-fashioned musical. This was so good. It was getting the chance to see Audra McDonald sing, like, Rose's Turn, and every single song that Mama Rose sings in this show, it's perfection. She blew the roof off the Majestic. I can't believe I witnessed it, because she's a once in a lifetime performer, and I feel so lucky that I am living at a time where I get to see her on a stage. I had a couple of those moments on this trip where I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm seeing Audra do Mama Rose. You know, there's almost no words. I'd seen her once before. I saw her in Shuffle Along. I'd actually seen Shuffle Along back in 2016, and she was so good in that, but obviously that show got like no love. So to see her in a show that is getting so much love and getting like her performance is so highly lauded that, I don't know, is she gonna win the Tony? We'll see. Would love to see I'd love to see her continue to break records. Would love to see it. And then today, I happened by pure coincidence to catch Cola Scola, Conrad Okamura, and James Scully's final performance in O'Mary. On my way to go see O'Mary, and I think, if I'm correct, this is most of the cast's final performance. I'm just very excited. And I'm wearing a hat right now, my daughter's hat, because I do not have an umbrella. And it's also not raining that much right now. But I don't want to deal with sprinkles. Also, the show is only 80 minutes, and then, so that I should get out at 6:20, meaning I will make my 7 o'clock curtain for Sunset, which I got today to rush for. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. This show was so much fun. I love a comedy. I love to laugh. I love to laugh. So, again, another show that's just zany and kooky and I think works because we've all heard that Mary Todd Lincoln was an eccentric woman. And so to see a very kooky, zany show, I don't know why I keep using the words kooky and zany, but to see their final performance in O'Mary was a special treat. And I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I saw this show because I had heard great things when it was off Broadway, and then it finally moved to Broadway, but the dates were, I think the dates were ending before this trip. And then they finally extended to today, to the 19th. And I was like, oh, yes, I have to buy a ticket. And I just bought a ticket. And then they extended again, but then they announced that Cole and Conrad and James weren't going to be extending with it. So it was really, I don't think I've ever seen a final performance before. So that was interesting and really cool to be a part of. And finally, the last show of the trip, I had the absolute pleasure of seeing Sunset Boulevard, but with Mandy Gonzalez. Okay, made it. It's fully snowing, but made it. Something about wearing a Dodger hat while going to see Sunset Boulevard. I have been a Mandy Gonzalez fan since I was 15, since In the Heights. So to be able to see her as Norma was absolutely phenomenal. I had full body chills watching her sing As If We Never Said Goodbye. And at first I was like, oh, to watch this performance I feel so lucky to be in this room watching her give this performance. Full body chills. And then I was like, or are these chills happening because the Sunset Boulevard walk just happened and it is snowing outside? Why not both? Why not both? I wasn't planning on seeing Sunset Boulevard on this trip. And up until yesterday, still wasn't sure if I was going to. And then I tried the Today Ticks Rush this morning, got a ticket, $45, row E orchestra right. An amazing seat. That was unexpected. I am not a huge fan of Andrew Lloyd Webber. This show did not make me an Andrew Lloyd Webber fan. The music still is not for me. I think what is being done on the stage is very interesting. I think the subject matter is really what lends itself to the use of the cameras and whatnot. But I think it really, at least to me, only could work for this. And so I think the idea is interesting. The show itself, I don't think is for me. But I'm so in awe of what I saw on the stage because I think it was so smartly done, and I think it was such an interesting idea to have, to incorporate the use of cameras with the idea of like old Hollywood. But then I also think like some of these things don't quite make sense because it's supposed to take place in 1949 and 1950, and then you just see people on laptops. Sure. Whatever. You know, it's an artistic choice. I also, you know, I prefer a more varied costume design and a more like a more, I prefer a set, you know, like a detailed set, but that obviously isn't in the style of the show, so that isn't the artistic directional choice. Again, I don't think the show is for me, but I think it is a very well done show. And I think the performances that are happening on that stage are incredible. And I think I am so lucky to have seen Mandy in this show. I mean, granted, she does at least one performance a week, so if you have the chance to see Mandy, go see Mandy. She's so good. I've been a fan since In the Heights. Since I was like 15 years old. Anyway, those are the shows I saw. I guess I should pack now. What time is it? 11:30. I don't know if I'm actually gonna sleep tonight. I don't know how I'm getting to the airport. I have so much to figure out.